We're selling Grandma's house and splitting it 3 ways. My uncle smiled at Thanksgiving dinner like he'd already won. He had no idea what Grandma left me in that envelope. My Uncle Clive stood up at Thanksgiving dinner, tapped his wine glass like he was giving a toast at his own coronation, and announced that the family had decided to sell my grandmother's house and split the proceeds 3 ways between him, my Aunt Petra, and my mother. My mother was dead. She died 14 months ago. Clive knew that. He was counting on it. He looked directly at me when he said 3 ways, not 4. I was 22, the only child of the only sibling who wasn't in the room anymore, and Clive had decided that made me irrelevant to the math. Petra nodded like this was all very reasonable. Clive's wife Margot smiled the way someone smiles when they've already redecorated the kitchen in their head using someone else's money. I sat completely still because 6 weeks earlier, my grandmother had handed me a sealed envelope and said, "Don't open this until they start fighting over the house." She died 11 days later. I hadn't opened it, not because I wasn't curious, because she told me to wait, and I don't break promises to her. But watching Clive carve up her home before the pumpkin pie had been served felt like the right time. I wanted to hear the full plan first. Clive had clearly rehearsed. He pulled out printed pages, already contacted a realtor, already had a market estimate, already had a proposed split, 60% to him as eldest, 25 to Petra, 15 to my mother's estate, which he said, using actual air quotes like my dead mother's legal existence, was a cute suggestion. He said the 15% was generous, considering she hadn't contributed to the upkeep in her final years. My mother hadn't contributed because she was doing chemotherapy. She was losing her hair and trying to make it to my college graduation, which she missed by 9 days. But Clive framed it as a financial shortcoming. Petra looked uncomfortable but didn't speak. She never spoke when Clive was performing. That was how it worked. Clive talked, and everyone else arranged their silence around him. His son Bobby leaned over and whispered, "Don't make this weird. Just take the 15. Clive folded his papers and said, "Unless anyone has something to add, I'll have the paperwork drawn up next week." I reached into my bag and pulled out the envelope, still sealed, cream-colored, my grandmother's handwriting on the front, just my name. I broke the seal in front of everyone. Inside was a single document, a deed, the deed to the house, transferred into my name 8 months before she died, notarized, filed with the county, legally recorded. My grandmother had signed her house over to me and told no one. I set it on the table between the cranberry sauce and Clive's printed market estimate. He picked it up, read it once quickly, and then again, slowly. The color left his face in sections, like a tide going out. He said, "This isn't real." I said, "The county recorder's office says it is." He said, "She wasn't in her right mind." I said, "The notary, her attorney, and 2 witnesses say she was." Petra leaned over and read it. Her hand went to her mouth. Margot stopped scrolling. Body put his glass down for the first time all evening. Clive looked at me and said, "You manipulated a dying woman." I said, "I visited a dying woman every single day for 7 months. I drove her to appointments. I picked up her prescriptions. I cleaned her kitchen and changed her sheets and sat with her when she couldn't sleep. I didn't ask for anything. She decided this on her own." The table was silent. "You visited twice. Once to ask about the house, once to measure the living room." She told me about both visits. She told me exactly what you said, which was, and I'm quoting her directly, "How much do you think we could get for this place once she's gone?" Petra whispered, "Clive, did you actually say that?" He didn't answer, which was its own kind of answer. I picked up the deed and said, "The house is not for sale. I'm moving in next month. Grandma's garden stays. Her kitchen stays. The wallpaper she picked out in 1987 stays. If any of you want to visit her home, you're welcome. But it's my home now, because she wanted it to be." Clive opened his mouth. Margot put her hand on his arm. For once, he didn't speak. On my way out, my grandmother's best friend, Miss Aura, who'd been sitting quietly at the end of the table the entire time, grabbed my hand and whispered, "She told me she was going to do it. She said, 'The only one who showed up is the only one who gets to stay.'"